Um, we'll go ahead and get started. Hey guys, welcome to our Instagram Live. We are here today to talk a little bit about what's going on in the insurance world with the whole COVID-19 scare. So I've got a couple of guys with me today. I'll let them sort of introduce themselves. Brad, Zach, do you want to tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what we're doing here?
Cool. Hey, well, I'm Brad Patterson. I'm with Montgomery and Associates Insurance. We're out of Brentwood, Tennessee. I am a commercial risk advisor, so I handle all of our commercial accounts and anything from a small business up to a mid-market business. And so we're doing what we can to be here for all of those guys and all that have some questions going forward. So hopefully that's what we can accomplish today.
Cool. My name's Zach Carter. I'm on the private client personal line side of Montgomery Associates here in Brentwood. So here to answer questions about home, auto, liability, how the new normal is going to affect you on the insurance side. So looking forward to speaking with you guys and answering your questions.
Awesome, thanks. I'm Steve Luther, Chord Real Estate broker, one of the owners of Chord. Here just kind of facilitating, just to let you guys know, if you have any questions today, feel free to post them in the comments on Instagram. We'll try to keep track of those and answer those as we go. We've also set up an email address that I'll be monitoring as well. It's asktheexpert@chordrealestate.com, and Chord is C-H-O-R-D, like the music chord. So if you have any questions after we're done with the live, feel free to shoot them to that email as well, and we'll get those answered for you later on. We'll go ahead and get started here. I don't see any immediate questions jumping up in the queue. So real quick, just curious, is insurance considered essential? Like, is everybody in the insurance world still working? The assessors, the adjusters, all those people, is it an essential function?
I would say yes, the adjusters are working. So the real estate brokers, if they have the capacity to work from home, are working because they are there to respond to a claim. I mean, that's why we have the insurance programs in place for you guys. They won't take the necessary precautions, but if you do have, an auto accident, if you're home, you do have a home claim, you can still get it adjusted because it is still part of what, quote unquote, the essential services of the financial markets. Right now, we might not be in the office, but again, we're there to respond if there is a claim on the personal side. So, Brad, comment on the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We are essential from the top down, from the insurance producers, to the account managers, to the claim adjusters, claim submitters. However, the companies are set up, we're absolutely essential. That was one, I guess you could say, sticking point with Nashville going through the COVID issue is that we just had started the claim process with the tornadoes. So our adjusters are all tied up with working with the tornado damage. And then, then especially on the commercial side of things, we've got adjusters who are getting pinged for wanting to know about, COVID coverage or, lack thereof. So yeah, we are certainly essential and certainly are going to remain that way through all of this in order to make sure our customers stay engaged and stay insured and properly covered.
Cool. So Nashville, obviously, we just had a tornado not that long ago. A lot of houses and businesses got torn up pretty bad. Given everything that's going on, given you guys largely working from home, have you guys seen any kind of delays in terms of getting claims processed or getting checks issued, anything like that with everything else that's going on too?
With regards on the personal line side, there hasn't been a delay on checks getting issued that I have come across or has been brought to my attention. I will say that, potential auto claims are down because less people are driving. So I haven't had any accidents reported in the last 3 weeks, which is great for your loss ratios. With regards to home claims, again, I haven't had any reporting, but the ones that were going on before this event, they are still getting processed smoothly. My customers are satisfied as now, and checks have been released. So the money's not tied up at all financial insurance markets right now on the personal side.
Yeah, on the commercial side, you know, the claim process has been fairly smooth. We have had a couple of issues with carriers, and it is significantly different on the personal line side in that there's so much more money tied up in different avenues when it comes to commercial insurance for coverages. So, you know, for a commercial account, you could have spoilage coverage, you could have loss of income because of a catastrophic loss, and so they really dive into each individual one of those. So it does take longer on the commercial side. All in all, in regards to the tornado portion of the situation that we're in, we haven't had any significant issues, some delays, but none that are really unexpected when you have a catastrophic claim or catastrophic event. I'm sorry.
Good to know. Just curious. So, you know, obviously in the real estate world, we've seen a dramatic shift toward tech. Have you guys seen any changes happening in the insurance world related to tech? Are you seeing more like virtual video enabled inspections, things like that, or you know, is it business as usual, or what have the changes been?
On the personal line side, we had our first request for a virtual inspection. So the carriers have developed an app that a property manager or real estate or even the client can utilize and walk around their home or their new purchase home when inspection is required. And it takes pictures, and the app's there to measure. I mean, so it's beyond me. I'm not a technology guy, but they have accommodated people not wanting people in their house right now. So that is a new technology I've seen on the personal line side. With regards to interacting with customers. But for the most part, most of the tech was already there. You could get a quote online if you're going directly. Us brokers are available online at all points in time. We do a lot of our stuff virtually through your Zoom meetings, your Instagram meetings, virtual emails. I can send video emails to customers. So that tech's always been in place. So the only adaptation I've seen on the personal line side is just the ability for the customer to take the inspection into their own hands and not have somebody come into the house.
Yeah, and on the commercial side, again, somewhat different. I don't think that they could turn down a request for a virtual inspection. I think that they would certainly comply. I haven't seen that yet. Now, I believe that after all of this has cleared up, things are certainly going to change in the way that business is processed as far as options for the customer. I think that there will be more technology on that end of it. Kind of like what Zach said, on the front end, we already had a lot of the technology in place, so there wasn't a real need to change any of that. So it would all be on the other end, inspections, customer interviews, audits, type of stuff like that may be a little bit different. It may look a little different after this is all done.
Zach, this is probably, I guess, more of a question for you. You mentioned that auto, I guess, accidents, things like that are down. So claims are down. I would imagine with more people at home now, there's probably an increase somewhat in claims at home, just because when you're there, you're using stuff more, things are more apt to break. And just curious if you guys are recommending or looking at anybody's liability limits, things like that, with more deliveries being made, more chance of somebody tripping on your steps or something like that. Is that a concern that people are talking about right now?
That's a great question. So yeah, that is always a concern. So most of our clients, we do a full review when they are onboarded. So we've already addressed a lot of liability concerns. But there is an increased risk. Everyone's home, especially if families are living together right now. So if you have parents moving in, trip and falls downstairs. We haven't seen the uptick in claims yet. They haven't been reported. But there is always somewhat more of a risk when people are home on a liability standpoint. But again, that's part of a natural process of all of our customers. They're going to go through our intake process, and when we deal with them, we'll talk about the home, we'll talk about the auto, and the main thing that we typically talk about and present to almost every one of our customers is what's called an umbrella policy, which is that additional liability layer. So if you don't already have one of those in place, anyone who's listening to that, talk to your broker. It's one of the most important things that you can have. for yourself, and it's relatively inexpensive. It could be like $150 for $1 million of coverage on the low side, sometimes up to maybe 200, 250. So if you don't have that, definitely reach out to your current broker, your current agent, or us. We'd love to talk to you about that as well. But for the most part, we are seeing that. But the other claims that we see is with children being home, they might, overflow a toilet or something like that. But that's common. I don't think being home is going to, more people being home is going to cause that. So really, we haven't seen the intake yet, but we're 3 weeks into it. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it and let you guys know.
Just to remind everybody, if you're with us live on Instagram, if you have any questions, feel free to pop those up in the comments. Any legitimate questions, please. We'll try to address those as those scroll through. We've also got an email set up, asktheexpert@chordrealestate.com, CORD. So if you have any questions, feel free to email that as well, now or after the live is over. It's a little different kind of a question. This is probably more of a legal issue, but it's just kind of curious. If someone alleges that they caught corona at your house or your place of business, are there liabilities you're aware of with that? I've heard there are exclusions in most policies for viruses and pathogens and things like that. Is that something anybody's really looking at, talked about, any coverages that need to be changed with those kinds of things going on now?
Well, I wouldn't say any coverages need to be changed. The thing that I always remind my clients is that, once we put you with a carrier, that carrier is protecting you in more ways than just the insurance policy. They're also protecting you for any liability claims that come up. So let's say someone does claim that they caught a virus or disease from your house. Well, first of all, every insurance carrier has attorneys on retainer. That's their job, is to keep money from flowing out of that carrier's pocket, right? So they are going to do their very best to prove that you are negligent or you are liable. Now, to me, it would be very difficult to prove that you caught something at someone's house unless there was visible proof of some type of transfer of whatever, right? So everybody's always liable for something at some point, and that's why insurance is so important. But I don't think there would be a need to change anything. Like you said, there are lots of there's a lot of language in each policy that says what it does and does not cover. So it's always important to look over those, talk to your broker, go over those with your broker to make sure that you understand what is and what is not covered, especially on the commercial side where you have lots of public coming in and out of your business potentially. So.
Yeah. And on the personal side, there's exclusions for contaminations and viruses. It's typically, it's on every single homeowner's policy and umbrella policy on the personal line side. So again, consult with your broker, review your policy, but there are exclusions for liability with regards to the current situation.
Okay, great. We had a question. Somebody was asking what we're talking about here. They joined us late. We've got a residential and a commercial insurance agent on here. So if you have any questions about insurance policies, things you should be aware of with COVID, please feel free to pop questions up on the comments, or you can shoot an email to asktheexpert@chordrealestate.com. We'll get those answered for you too. Playing devil's advocate here, is this an opportunity to maybe shave some coverages? Airbnb, for example, there's not a lot of people staying in Airbnbs right now. If you're not going to use it for a couple of months, do you eliminate those coverages? How would those kinds of things work, and what are your recommendations for those things?
So on that specific note, we actually are fielding a lot of those questions, and fortunately, a lot of my clients that have Airbnbs are just changing them over to long-term rentals or secondary vacation homes. And what that does is it still gives you the coverage for the dwelling and anything you may have inside. You can potentially reduce the liability coverage of the policy. That may save a little bit of money if you're looking to do that. But you don't want to cut out all coverage, because that's going to leave you're at risk for, a fire, wind damage, something like that. So there are, if you have a policy that's strictly covering Airbnb or VRBO, which they are a little bit different, then there are some options if you are not doing short-term rental. We can change the type of policy that you have until you decide to do otherwise.
Zach, anything to add to that, or?
Only thing I'd notice is families with multiple cars. They will put some into what's called storage coverage, which means basically you cannot drive that car. There's no liability, which does reduce the premium. There's typically time limits. You can't just like take it in and out of storage. You have to put it in storage for about 30 days typically. So a family that, 4 kids, 6 cars, right? They'll put 4 of those cars into storage coverage for 30 days because everyone's staying at home, to reduce the policy premiums and keep 2 cars with active coverage. And those are the ones that everyone's driving. But again, you have to be very careful if you do that. You got to remember to call your broker or your agent to reactivate the coverage. And you can't do it for short term. You actually have to do it for like 30 days in order to utilize the savings, because otherwise they'll backdate it to the day you took the coverage off if it's less than 30 days.
Gotcha. For businesses that are kind of really almost shut down right now, do you recommend canceling, those business type policies, or are there reasons you would want to keep those kind of policies in place?
Yeah, so that's going to be specific to each. A restaurant's going to be different than some other type of marketplace. Each of them have different coverages. My advice to my clients has been, let's talk about it. Let's see what we can. For instance, a lot of times, this is just an example, a lot of times restaurants have 2 or 3 different coverages, and one of those may be just a liquor liability coverage. Well, if you don't have any customers, you could potentially not have that liquor liability coverage, which could save you some money. And then you can, liquor liability is easy to rewrite once the change is over, or whatever the situation is. But I recommend that anybody speak with their broker or insurance agent and go over each individual coverage to see if there is anything that you can do. So there are options, and there also are options for the client and or the insurance broker to call the carrier directly and say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what's happening. I don't have any customers. Haven't had any for 30 days. Doesn't look like I'm going to have any for the next 30 days. Is there anything that you can do as the insurance carrier to help me during this time? A lot of carriers are offering some type of relief in order to do that. So I think it's more important to do that first instead of just cold stone canceling the policy.
It kind of as a follow-up to that, for businesses that have like a business interruption, income replacement type of coverage, are those things kicking in for this, or do those not apply? Should they be making?
That's a great question, and a question we're getting on a weekly basis. The first thing that we have asked our carriers is can you provide some relief for premium during this time? Hoping that if they can do that, then we don't have to get into filing an actual claim, because you can ask for relief of premium without having to file a claim. We haven't gotten, there hasn't been any carrier that has said that they are offering coverage for business interruption or income interruption due to the current situation. I'm not an insurance carrier. I just deal with them. That doesn't mean that that's not going to happen, but it has not happened yet. And as most policies read currently, much like they do on the personal lines, there's no coverage or business interruption coverage for the current situation with the COVID-19 virus shutting everything
hopefully they'll get these small business loans figured out.
Yes.
I hope.
Uh, just assuming on the residential side, they're doing the same kind of relief of payments on the residential side too, or
They are delaying your payment. So you can go, I think, up to 90 days without paying your coverage and it still stays in force. But each carrier has a different, way to pay that back. Like you still owe the premium. So some carriers are then taking those 3 months and they're going to divide it between the remaining premium payments for the policy term. So that's option one. The other option is, hey, you don't have to pay us for 3 months, but at the end of those 3 months, you owe us all this money. So if you do approach your carrier about that, just figure out which term it is. I prefer the spread out term for my customers because then you're not stuck with a $1,000 bill after 3 months. But ask that question if you do go for the premium, forbearance for 60, 90 days, depending on the carrier. Just so you're not stuck with a big bill at the end of 90 days, like, oh, I didn't expect that. So definitely ask that question if you are approaching your carriers. They are offering relief. They will continue coverage without payment, but just figure out how they want that money to be paid after that time. Okay, so that's the very important question to ask.
Just a reminder for the people that are with us on Instagram Live, if you guys have any questions for these guys, feel free to pop them up in the comments. We are monitoring those as best we can. You can also shoot us an email to asktheexpert@chordrealestate.com, CHORD, and we'll get this answered for you. What about people that just don't pay and have their policies canceled? Can they be rewritten? How does that affect them? I guess residential and commercial, what are the issues there?
It's a great question. So on the personal side, my recommendation is if you can pay it or if you can get the delay, definitely do that. Because if you cancel and you may or may not get reinstated with the carrier, you may get rewritten with the carrier. Now, when you are rewritten, you're going to have what's called a gap in coverage from the day that policy canceled to the day that we put that new policies. Every insurance carrier is going to look at that you didn't have prior insurance, which can cause your new policy to be much more expensive than it should be. Because the way that basically the statistics say if you don't have insurance, you're at higher risk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important to have continuous coverage if you can. So again, if you're not driving the cars, put them in storage coverage. You still have continuous coverage. Just do not drive your cars. But first, call your carriers, see if you can get that premium delayed the certain amount of time and figure out what that payment plan is going to be after. That is the best. That keeps you with continuous coverage. Because without continuous coverage, you do have a gap, and they will provide the rewritten policies, no matter who you're with, because it's all public record out there, is going to provide. It's not going to be the best pricing with that carrier. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, exact same thing on the commercial side. I actually talked to a carrier this morning about a client of mine who is a restaurant and asked them the very same question. And, carrier, we're waiting on carrier response on if they have to cancel, is there a penalty for being rewritten? Based on normal insurance rules, the answer is yes, there is some type of penalty. So I don't know that will change, but yeah, everything Zach said is the exact same for commercial lines.
We've talked a little bit about small businesses. Zach, for you, maybe just thinking about home-based businesses, things like daycare, some individual hair salons, that kind of thing. Are there exclusions or anything people should be aware of with those kinds of situations right now? So
for your typical home office business where you can conduct yourself like this via computer and you have some business property in the house, you're going to be absolutely fine for that. It's when you're bringing people into your house. So like a daycare or a hair salon, there are exclusions for that on your homeowner's policy. Now you can fill up some of those gaps with a commercial policy, and Brad or your broker could absolutely help you out with that. But your homeowner's policy, 9 out of 10 are not going to cover daycares. because daycares, you have to have certain requirements about exits, certain amount of square footage per children, et cetera, with regards to that. And with regards to hair salons, like in-home hair salons, you're working with chemicals. And so there's an increased liability concern that, that type of position is going to cancel. So for your majority of professionals out there in the world who just come home, they can be behind their computers, have some business property, there is coverage for that. You're okay. It's when you're dealing with the public and you're bringing them into your house that you've increased the exposure, like a hair salon, like a daycare. There are going to be exclusions on your homeowner's policies. And again, you can fill some of those gaps with a small business policy or commercial policy, and Brad or your broker could help you absolutely with that.
Brad, do you want to add anything to that, given that there may be some commercial aspects to that too?
Yeah, not really add, but just emphasize what Zach said is, as long as you're doing just normal business that doesn't require public coming in to your home, you're perfectly fine. Almost every major personal lines insurance carrier I know have a endorsement called Business Pursuits that gives you some coverage for that. So yeah, absolutely. But if you have traffic coming in and out of your house, if you're a therapist, for example, and you feel comfortable enough for one person at a time coming in and out of your house, but you're doing 10 of those a day, there's some increased liability there, and you need to certainly look at something adding on to what you currently have to do that. So yeah, there are options as a home-based business for you to be covered under your personal lines. You're fine, but please be aware that there could be a time when you need to increase your coverage based on people coming into your home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you guys deal with this or not, short-term, long-term disability. Are you guys aware of how those would relate to Corona, COVID-19, if those would kick in at all? Or
I do not. I mean, I'm very familiar with short-term and long-term disability in regards to I have one, but I truly don't know how this covers, or if it does cover, something like this.
I'm with Brad. It's not my line of expertise. I do have the coverage. I think it's very important, but I don't know how it does respond. So we can definitely.
I do know that there's a time frame that you have to be proven disabled in order for those payments to kick in. So my personal opinion would be, I mean, if you have this and you're in the hospital on a ventilator for 30 days, then you are disabled. So I would assume, as a personal person, that it would be covered. As an expert, I mean, as a insurance agent, I can't tell you what those coverages look like.
Okay. We're winding down here. If you guys have any questions on Instagram Live, pop those up into the comments. We'll get those answered for you as we're wrapping up. Otherwise, you can shoot an email to asktheexpert@chordrealestate.com, CHORD, and we'll get those answered for you later on. One more question for you guys, and this is a little bit more of a general question, I guess, not necessarily related to COVID, other than we're seeing some market fluctuations right now. But home values, business values fluctuate, increase, decrease. Just thinking of an example in my head, construction costs, for example, might go up, go down, therefore affecting replacement costs. Do policies auto adjust for those kinds of things? Is that something that resets on an annual basis? Is that something that the brokers are keeping an eye on? Is that something the clients need to bring up? How does that whole process work for both of you guys?
So on the personal side, there are a couple different policies in place depending on the caliber of company. So you're just going to have a cost policy. So if I'm insuring the house for $500,000, the best they're going to pay is $500,000. There are policies that have what's called extended replacement cost, which is 10%, 20%, 50%, depending on the endorsement that's on your homeowners, on how much more they're going to pay over and above the dwelling amount. And then there's companies that offer a guaranteed replacement cost, which is typically the companies that we're going to recommend to you. So no matter what the cost it is going to replace your home with like kind of quality materials. Now, when it comes to a broker, we do monitor. There's always an inflationary built into the policy, so we do monitor that. They are automatically increased. But it is important because we'll take an event like a tornado that takes out a whole neighborhood on the personal side. You know, you got economics coming at, supply and demand. Everything's going to cost a lot more in that situation. So it's very important that your policy either provides the biggest extension or a guarantee that your house will be rebuilt. Otherwise, you're going to be in a situation that you might get towards the end of your project and it's going to be out of your pocket money. So.
Yeah, very similar to commercial lines. I think it's always very important because most things in the commercial world don't change except on renewal date, unless it's a drastic change. But I think it's always important to be in contact with your agent no less than 60 days prior to your renewal to do a review and go over what your past coverages were, what your new coverages were, and you can change positive or negative in those. I think it's very important that business owners do that, and as also insurance brokers, which we do at Montgomery Associates, we reach out to you 90 days prior to the renewal and, you know, try to start getting some information from you to see what the change is. So nothing really in the commercial world changes mid policy period, but at renewal things can change, and there are options to do that at that time.
Awesome. If there aren't any more questions on Insta Live right now, we'll kind of wrap things up. I'll let you guys give everybody your contact info, best way to get a hold of you if they've got questions or if they're looking to potentially make a change in coverage. Tell everybody how to reach you.
Cool. Well, you can call me directly at 615-828-1189. Again, 615-828. You can text that as well. Or my email is Zach, Z-A-C-H, and that's at MontgomeryAssociatesLLC.com.
And mine is Brad. Let me give you my cell phone number first. Cell phone number is 615-622-4581. Again, that's 615-622-4581. My email address is Brad, B-R-A-D, at minfg.com. That's Mike, Indigo, November, Foxtrot, Golf.com.
Are you an ex-military guy?
No, I'm not.
He's rattled
Foxtrot.
I hadn't heard that before. Well, thanks guys for being here. Thank you guys for joining us online as well. Again, I'm Steve Luther, real estate broker, owner at Chord Real Estate down on Music Row. You can reach us at 615-988-1001 or info@chordrealestate.com. If you have any questions specific to what we've been talking about on this edition or the previous editions of Ask the Expert, feel free to shoot an email to asktheexpert@chordrealestate.com. And again, Chord is C-H-O-R-D. Thanks a lot, and we will see you guys next time.